Hey friends, welcome back to Kiki's Closet. Today we're wrapping up our Pride Month celebration by talking with 4 incredible queer women of color. Let's go.
Come and play in Kiki's Closet today.
Please help me welcome my friends, Jess Casanova, Miss J, Alex Loren, and Vibhu Mohan. Hey everybody, welcome to Kiki's Closet. Thank you all so much for being here with me today, ending Pride Month strong, talking with 4 fabulous queer women. My first question of the day, what color is your heart today?
I'm gonna go with yellow.
I'm gonna go with purple, feeling clarity, feeling spiritual.
Lots of pinks, honey. I'm feeling super, super pink right now. Love, excitement, pink.
I will echo yellow today.
What was the first time you saw queerness represented on stage?
I'm gonna have to go with Fun Home. My introduction to that show, it was kind of confusing for me because I was like, oh no, like I don't see myself in that. What do you mean? My friends were like, no, but the song Ring of Keys is like totally you. Like after the show talking about it, the more I sat with it, I was like, oh, interesting. It was just kind of something that I really had to sit with, and it's an important one to me.
The first time it really stuck out to me was when I actually did Rent and was actually able to be around that and see it and be in it.
Definitely Kiki Boots. Miss Lola was definitely one of the first ones. And that's kind of up for debate because there's a lot of conversation on whether or not she's straight, but she definitely is a queer icon for me.
I'm gonna have to say Priscilla, Queen of the Desert. When I was very, very young, that was like one of the first Tony Awards that I watched. And it was the first time I saw drag queens on stage. And I think I was like 8 and I was like, what is this? Who are these people? Coming from a South Asian background, I had been exposed to the trans community very, very early in my life, but I didn't know that like trans people existed outside of India, or like gender queerness or alternative gender identity outside of heterosexuality or like heteronormativity. And I think that was the first time I was like, oh my gosh, they're everywhere. That's so cool.
Now we've seen a big step forward in queerness represented on screen and on stage over the past few years, like in Kinky Boots, The Inheritance, everybody's talking about Jamie. But besides the prom and Fun Home, queer women are rarely celebrated. Why do we think that is?
I feel like for some reason it's not as popularized, or like it just doesn't seem like it's as important to other people, which is very strange to me because queer women are everything and I feel like they should be represented more and like their story needs to be told a little more on stage, but I just don't think like people view it as interesting, which is so weird to me because there's so much in there and I think that we need to see it more, and I'm gonna go write a show about it.
There's this weird fetishization and almost invalidates a little bit bisexual women, and maybe that might have something to do with it.
If it's a bisexual woman, then like, oh, they're just doing it for attention. If it's, a bisexual man, it's a phase, oh, they're gay. Like it all stems from this, everyone is attracted to men, right? Like that is kind of the takeaway of people saying things like that. Women can love women. It all stems from that male dominant situation.
And I just think bisexuals as a whole, because me and my partner both identify as bisexual, we're just so misrepresented, I feel. And there's not enough of our stories, especially, I don't want to even just say in theater, in life.
Someone was telling me the other day, and I really, really agree with this perspective, is that like so many of the iconic women in theater that we think of, the Mama Roses, were written by gay men and were kind of like stand-ins for themselves, a way for them to understand themselves and put themselves on stage in a time when they weren't like actually allowed to put themselves on stage. But because of the lack of female writers back then, and especially because of the lack of queer female writers back then, we didn't grow up with those. There was not a queer stand-in for a Mama Rose or way for queer women to see themselves as powerful and, as Alex was saying, an unfetishized, completely honest portrayal of themselves on stage until like the 90s. So I think it really does stem back to the fact that the people holding the pen back then was dominated by a very specific kind of person. It was mainly white cis gay men who were writing female characters, and most of the time those female characters were straight because they could have relationships with men. And that's not a dig or a drag, it's just how our history is as writers.
What do you want to see going forward in terms of new stories being told?
I really want to see more people of color, more women of color inhabiting queer stories. And I want to see the like breadth and variety of what those stories can be and what those stories mean, whether they're period pieces, whether they're contemporary pieces, whether they're pieces set in space and they're aliens and they're gay aliens. It's like, who cares? But I would love for it to not be the gay play you do in June during Pride Month as a part of your theaters, giving each month this is this month and we're going to pay attention to this group, but we're going to forget about them for the other 11 months of the year. I hope we can forget about that. And I hope we can find more intersectionality to combat that, of like packaging each month as a thing. I think it's beautiful that we center queerness in the LGBT community during the month of June, but we're not just gay during June. So I hope that we start centering intersectionality. And I think that is really going to help so many communities be able to interface with each other and be able to communicate with each other and like really find points of contact and connection together.
There can always be more representation of queer people, people of color. You know, I used to work for a Shakespeare company, and a gender bent Shakespeare production is almost the norm now. It's done all of the time. And I would love to see more of that in musical theater. Company is a great example right now. And I think that they do that really well. And, you know, I think it's less about, oh, we're trying to diversify and, you know, we need, you know, this many, you know, Black people. We need this many Latinas. It's the mindful implication of it that I think is really important.
We're getting into like, what is feminine? What is masculine? I would be interested to see, for lack of a better term, a woman with masculine qualities. Like I remember when I was younger, I was a Disney kid, and I would love, I mean, even something like The Lion King. And I would always be like, why does Simba get this arc? And like Nala's just like there. And like, I mean, that same theme just like echoed through my life as an actor. You know, I felt like all the great roles that I wanted to play, even something with Shakespeare, were always male. Because in Shakespeare, you're either the virginal, pure, sweet girl that kind of does anything your brother, your lover, or your father tells you to do, and you end up dead. Or you're this evil woman, this evil, nasty woman like your Lady Macbeth, who just kind of tries to play the same game as all the men in the show, but yet she's labeled, she's witch, she's evil, she's a seductress. A woman can be multifaceted, and it doesn't make her a whore or a virginal pure dove. And we say we're far from that, but take a Netflix show, we're not, especially with women of color.
Miss J, you're currently in Kinky Boots at the Engamin, and I'd love to hear what you have to say about playing Lola.
Yeah, it's been a dream of mine, like since 15, 16, like we did it a lot in high school, and I was like, I can do this, like it's possible, and like finally getting the opportunity. I also kind of have been playing with this idea that she could potentially be somebody that's under the trans umbrella as well, because she presents on her daily life as Lola. Definitely a different time, and you know, it might not have been as accepted back then, but I view it that way. I want to also see more stories about trans people, just period in general, or trans women playing roles that are written for traditional women. Like, it's possible. Even though like I may be a bass baritone, I can still sing the hell out of some of that music. You know what I mean? So like getting that opportunity would also be nice, and also having people behind the table to support that are also POC, that are also trans people, that are also people under the queer umbrella. And when you come to a show like Kinky Boots, tying it all together, you have those kind of people behind the scenes, definitely will help tell that story in a different way.
Now, my final question of the day, in honor of Pride Month, what is your favorite part of being queer?
I love the family. I love the community. I've met people who I consider family, and I think that that is just so important. And, you know, you do get to choose your family. It's the greatest thing.
I love being able to like wake up each morning and be like, this is me and it's okay. And I don't have to be embarrassed about the fact that I was a little sixth grader looking at female bikini models under the cover. And now I feel like, you know what? The people that love me, and they don't care, as they shouldn't, because who you love, it doesn't matter. We all love each other. We're humans. We want love. We all want to be understood.
It's the altering of the word love itself, in that I feel like in a heteronormative world, love is so often talked about as only a romantic thing. And I feel like when you step into the LGBTQ plus community, the queer community, you are taught that love means so many different things. And love comes from so many different places, and just like everybody exudes love, because we've all had to struggle and fight to love and be loved, and not just romantically, but in like every sense of the word. I feel like this is a community that doesn't take love for granted.
The biggest thing for me is just being able to be myself, right? Like, we all have struggled, we all have done like so many things, been through so many things, cried a lot in the pillows, honey. But definitely having that opportunity to like just be able to be me, whatever that means, not having to label it, and seeing how it affects the next generation. I was just talking about this the other day and cried and cried and cried because there was one person who came and saw Kinky Boots with me, and she kind of just like snuck up to us like in the corner and was just like, "You're really great, and like I just want you to know like how inspiring you are for me as a queer woman or child," you know what I mean, in front of her father. And like, to me, like, that is what's important, mostly inspiring the next generation and telling them that it's okay, no matter what people say, no matter what people do, still be yourself.
Thank you all so much for chatting with me today. Happy Pride. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you real soon. Bye, everybody.
Come on and come and play in Kiki's closet today.